Childminder, a podcast that's meant for us childminders. My name's Charlotte and I'm your host and colleague throughout these episodes, and I hope that this podcast helps you feel more connected to the childminding community. In today's episode, we're going to chat about a sense of wonder. Don't worry, I'm not going to say it like that every time. But we are going to chat about what is a sense of wonder. We're going to find out if it links to any curriculum documents or statutory guidance you might be following, how it could link to being in a childminding setting, and why it might be good for children to have a sense of wonder. So if you haven't already got a cuppa, make sure you pause it, go make one, come back, and let's dig into this together. So what is a sense of wonder? Well, before I dive into any definitions, I'm going to say some words that hopefully will help you feel what a sense of wonder might mean. Amazing, awe, awesome, remarkable, magic, curiosity, inquisitive. Hopefully those words helped you feel a bit like what wonder can feel like. Maybe you can think back on some times where you felt those feelings, either as a child or as an adult, when you were fascinated by something or you saw or did something absolutely unbelievable. For me, a sense of wonder is this curiosity about finding out about something, or just being so completely gobsmacked by something that you just wonder all about it, even if you know you can't answer the questions. Have you ever felt that? It'd be great to know if you have had that feeling, and that will really help you understand what we're trying to instill when we talk about a sense of wonder. If not, don't worry, I've got some tips later on to help you think about ways that you might be able to spark your own sense of wonder. So don't panic if those words didn't really give you any feelings. We're going to get there, don't worry. So let's move on to talking about why a sense of wonder might be important. Even if we haven't fully explained what a sense of wonder is, I'm hoping that as we chat, you might get a bit more of a feel for it as we go along. To me, a sense of wonder is just part of human nature. It helps your mind and body to learn new skills together. When you're fascinated about something, you want to learn all about it. You want to learn how it works, or why it exists. You want to think about all the words and the lingo that might be related to it. Sometimes you might be so eager to find out more questions that you go to a group or meet new people about your interests. So all of these things, all of these skills would have been really important a long time ago, back when these inquisitive thoughts were part of survival. For example, when we were thinking about foraging for food, people would have been very interested over what these berries were. Are they safe to eat? How can we tell that? The smell, the look, the taste, the effects afterwards. So all of these inquisitive thoughts about things and learning about things helped us develop and survive. So to me, that's why it just feels like being curious about things and having a sense of wonder is just human nature. So we really don't have to think too hard about it. It really is just something that's inbuilt within us. It also could be a way of being amused. We might not have the answers to something, and we might be completely awestruck by something, but we can't explain or hold or have any tangible thing. So actually we become creative. We make art, we dance, we sing about all kinds of different things. So I feel like a sense of wonder can be explored in and demonstrated in a great sense of ways, and that not necessarily everybody's demonstration of a sense of wonder could be the same. For young children who have so many more skills to learn than an adult before they're 5 years old, approach their environment with a sense of wonder, and it seems to come really naturally. And quite honestly, it's often adults that struggle with being enthused or understanding the inquisitive ways that children present their sense of wonder. And often adults feel more pressured into thinking that children need to be learning particular things and being school ready or learning all of these academic things. And they actually try and stifle the sense of wonder, even if it's unintentional. And if you think about the argument I just presented about how it's human nature and how these skills are actually really important for linking your mind and your body, muting and squashing those senses of wonder in children could actually be a problem. I looked into some research about this, and Vessel and Reflich in 2021 stated that feeling a sense of wonder can help us to be less stressed and more connected to other people. That feelings of awe help us to feel smaller in a world that's huge, and it can lead us to less thinking about our problems, which we call rumination. So when we think about rumination, it's something that we quite typically hear in mental health conditions such as anxiety or depression, where people think and think and think about problems or situations that have happened in the past, and they're reliving it. And that actually, if you can make yourself smaller in the world, even if it sounds a little bit opposite, if you can develop a sense of wonder that the world is so huge and marvelous that you have less time or a bother to think about all of these things that probably really don't matter. So it could also be really important for mental health. So we should definitely look more into it, and we should definitely think about how a sense of wonder is more than just being curious about something. I know that sometimes things can be really important to us, or we learn all these things that are like great and inspiring, and like we really want to put this into our setting, but then it's really difficult to find a balance of all the things that you want to put into your setting, especially childminders who have got to manage everything. Especially if you're an independent childminder on your own, solo childminding, you've got to develop the whole curriculum on your own, and sometimes that can be really overwhelming. So let's firstly think about how a sense of wonder just naturally fits into, it just slides into the EYFS and some other frameworks in the UK, so that actually you feel like you don't have to work so hard. You just know that it's happening and why it's important. I think that sometimes is really helpful, that you don't have to put in all this extra work to make something really great happen in your setting. So I'm an English childminder, so I am working in England at the moment, and for me, a sense of wonder mostly fits into the characteristics of effective learning in the early years foundation stage. And I think that also it works with the overarching principles of the EYFS, unique child. A child is interested in something of their own choosing. Enabling environments, so if our setting can enable a child to feel like a sense of wonder is there, that it's just there. Maybe even positive relationships, because if you respond positively to a child who's showing a sense of wonder and curiosity and inquisitive, and they're fascinated about something, and you take an interest in that, that's going to make that child feel so valued and important. So I think all of those things fit together really nicely with a sense of wonder, and you probably don't have to do very much. For example, if a child is very interested in a rock in the garden, they found this rock and it's particularly nice because it's got all these different edges, or maybe it's even just a really, really smooth one, and they're just really feeling it and it's really curious about it. And then you start thinking about, what could I do to make that even more interesting for the child? So it might just be that you chat about the stone. Where did it come from? Where did you find it? You could talk about what could live under the stone or where it could travel to. You could think about washing it and what happens to it when it's wet and when it dries in the sun. All of these things spark a curiosity about just that one object, and mostly you're enabling with your environment and your interactions that child just being fascinated and learning about that object. You're not doing anything particularly special. You're not introducing glamorous resources that are really expensive. That's just a stone in your garden. So I think that really a sense of wonder is just there, and our job is to spot it and to help push it along a bit. For those of you who don't work in England, I have looked up some curriculum documents, and some guidance. So in Scotland, the Curriculum for Excellence says that on page 58, there's a whole section about inspiration, enjoyment, and how important that is. And actually, I feel like the Scottish curriculum was very good with looking at curiosity. So if you aren't in Scotland and you fancy reading a bit about it, I will definitely post the links for all of these documents so you can have a little explore. And also in the Curriculum for Excellence in Scotland, in page 254 and 255, for anyone that wants to look it up, there is a whole section on inquiry and investigative skills, scientific even, and analytical thinking skills. So that's really, really a good link to make there, that a sense of wonder really links well with science. You think about things that you might do in your setting which make you feel curious and ask lots of questions. A lot of it will probably relate to science and the natural world. So I found it really intriguing and good that the Scottish curriculum highlighted it in those sections. In Wales, the curriculum for funded and non-maintained nursery settings talks about children who are ready to learn throughout their entire lives and are creative problem solvers. So again, this thinking about an object or even just a thought critically helps children to develop these problem solving skills, which are very important for all sorts of areas of life and jobs and just general family, all sorts of things. So it's definitely important there. And the engaging experiences section in the Welsh curriculum document relates to a sense of wonder by stating things about understanding how things work and helping children to notice the world around them. The Northern Ireland curriculum seemed less interested in things related to characteristics of effective learning. But there was a statement in there on page 5 of the curricular guidance for preschool education that mentions about creating confident, eager, enthusiastic, independent, curious learners with a positive and problem-solving approach to learning. So you can see that, again, it's problem-solving seems to be a good link to use. So when a child has a sense of wonder, they're developing problem-solving skills. They're developing communication skills by learning vocabulary and discussing with other people and asking questions. They're being curious about something, so they're probably developing some manipulation and physical skills there. They're developing thinking patterns in their brain, connecting all of the parts of their brain together. So you can really see how actually something that we don't have to put into our curriculum. It's already there naturally, but maybe we just haven't had it in the forefront of our mind when we're planning that actually these things can be really important and help a child's development. So I have already given a few examples of what a sense of wonder could look like in practice, but we're childminders and we like to know we've got a sense of wonder about what else we could do or what other examples we might see every day. So experiencing new things, that's something that happens every day. You hear that saying, you learn something new every day. So experiencing new things could help develop a sense of wonder. Being outdoors and encountering different natural environments. So yes, you might go out in your garden every day, but also you might go out in your community, once a week. Maybe you go to the beach. So I would love it. I'm very envious when I see childminders who live next to the beach. You lucky lot. So you might go to the seaside. You might go to a wooded area. You might find somewhere that's covered in puddles when it rains. So all of these different things, all these different places help us to develop a sense of wonder about why these places are different and how can the world possibly be like this when you imagine being no years old and you've never seen a beach before, or like 1 or 2 years old and you've never seen a beach before, and just how marvelous that must be, with all these different textures and sounds and taste, all of the sensory experience of just being somewhere new. So that would help develop a sense of wonder there. Science activities, as I've already mentioned, things like messy play, having different textures. You could do experiments that have different reactions. That good old vinegar and baking powder to make volcanoes. That's a great way of getting a sense of wonder, because children just have no idea that's going to happen if they've never done it before. So, a really good one. And then you get fascinated as to why the bubbles are happening and can I make it go again? Cooking can also be a great one here, because you're turning effectively goo of dough into bread. I mean, how does that even happen? Do you even know how it happens? It's just magic? So, cooking can be a great way of instilling a sense of wonder. It doesn't all have to be super exciting and new and buzzing all of the time, because it's not real life. We don't get new things every day. So, calm and quiet times can also be a good way of instilling a sense of wonder. Having that time to think creatively about something, being able to sit there and daydream. I mean, we don't hear about daydreamers quite so much anymore. And actually, maybe a lot of daydreamers are, things that we used to daydream about is actually now defined as anxious thoughts. So I would like to be able to give time back to daydreaming without being worried about things, making up stories about ideas of things. I just would be wonderful if we could give that back to a generation. So we should definitely have good, calm, quiet times built into our routines that can help instill a sense of wonder. Meaningful interactions with childminders and childminding assistants are really important. You valuing a child's sense of wonder is doing more for them than buying any fancy resource in the whole world. You and your interactions and your support of that child are going to mean more to them than any fancy toy, any place that you go, because you're valuing their sense of wonder. You're valuing what's important to them. That knowing that they have something that they're interested in and that's okay and it's not silly. That's so important. So don't ever think it's not important. Also, we can instill a sense of wonder by actually not having the answer all the time. We know that children ask questions all the time, especially at certain ages. Why? 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 And sometimes we get to a point where we just can't answer why anymore. But that's okay, because we can help instill a sense of wonder by doing the research together. And maybe you'll never find the answer, and maybe it's magical, but that's okay, because it's actually the thinking about it and the journey of thinking about things rather than the end result. So if you don't know the answer, it's okay to not know the answer, and it's okay to tell a child you don't know the answer, but we could try and find out together. Giving time to explore, this is a good one. So when you go to any outside area, you're going on a trip around your local area and you go to a wooded place and you've packed everything. You've packed magnifying glasses, torches, clipboard, paper, pens. You've bought welly boots with you. You've bought everything. Pond dipping nets, anything you could think of. You've brought all this stuff with you and you've scheduled everything that you're going to do at each place. And actually, you can make your life so much easier for yourself. Yes, bring all these things, but sometimes know that you're not going to use them. Sometimes children will find something to do with a stick and a bit of wet mud, and they will happily play there for half an hour to an hour and not once touch a magnifying glass that you brought along with you, or not once want to look at the spotter sheet. And you're arguing with them to get them to fill in the spotter sheet and to look for the butterfly and look for the feather. Sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay, because actually, if you say, okay, that's fine, they're really engaged in that stick with mud, I can see that they're learning all about it, that they're experimenting, they're noticing change, they're really developing a sense of concentration. they're curious, they're making all these brain connections. These are all things that are like super important. So why would I then want to go in with my spotter sheet and take them away from this? So yes, bring all of those things, especially if you do know your children are interested in the things, but be prepared not to use them and follow along with the child's interest that they've found while they're there in this new area, because they might not ever have seen a muddy puddle behave like that before. They might never have squelched mud in their fingers before and then discovered that it goes on them, and then rub it on their clothes and discover it goes on their clothes and think, how am I going to get this? Leave them. Just let them explore, because that's a sense of wonder. They're curious, they're inquisitive, they're gobsmacked by something happening, and there's not really any point in taking them away to do your activity that they're going to be less interested in. So then they're not going to develop all of those skills where their brain and their body are syncing together. Another way of having a sense of wonder instilled in your setting is just to have a varied curriculum. Now, a curriculum doesn't have to be the statutory documents. In fact, it isn't really. The statutory documents tell you kind of the things you've got to achieve, but your curriculum can be anything you want. So there's nothing really in the statutory documents that I've seen that mention about charity work. But many childminders do charity work as part of their curriculum. A curriculum is just the things that you're offering the children and that you're trying to get them to learn about, and it's kind of your ethos and what you provide. We are going to think about the benefits of it. We have talked a little bit about it and how it's all kind of there, and I hope that you're starting to build a picture of what a sense of wonder could be in your own setting. But it's always good to have some knowledge about why something is good, and so why you should be looking out for it. And also, if you're letting children do something that's really fascinating them, and someone was to ask you why you're letting them do that horribly messy thing, or why you're not doing the adult planned activity, or you're not, you've changed your routine a little bit in timing so that lunch might be a little bit late because the child is having such a great time doing this thing that they're interested in, that you've got an answer. And that could either be for yourself, because sometimes you think to yourself, well, I've really got to get on with the day. I really need to get on with the day, and the house is a mess, and stop. Yes, these things do need to happen, but can we be a bit flexible because of these reasons that we're now going to talk about? It might also be, you're having an Ofsted inspection, and the Ofsted inspector is asking you why you're choosing to, go about this in this way, and you can be able to answer confidently about why a sense of wonder is important and why you not interrupting the child doing that to do your particular adult-led outcome, why that's important. And actually, a lot of people get worried about having the wrong answer for Ofsted, and unless it's because, in my personal opinion and experience, unless it's something statutory, as long as you can explain your thinking and your doing and your reasons confidently, and they're of benefit to the children, you're not going to be wrong. So wonder and curiosity are skills that are used in life subjects all over the place that require investigation skills. So science, if you're a scientist as an adult and you're doing experiments on things, you need to be curious, and you need to have lists of questions, and you need to be able to find out, why isn't that thing working? Maybe I'll try this variable, maybe I'll try this thing next. So anything that requires investigation, maybe you might, in the police, you need to be able to question why these things happened, where you might find information from. All sorts of subjects in life require a sense of wonder and a curiosity, and being able to ask questions and to problem solve. Another benefit might be that regardless of future, we're going to be in the here and now, and being able to appreciate and notice beautiful things might actually be able to help children to retain mindfulness and their expressive mindsets. So if you can notice the beauty in a little bug that's landed on your hand, and You're just so curious and fascinated and wonderful about it, and you're just completely absorbed in that moment. These are all things that adults now are having to be taught. How about we don't need to teach it, and we just need to let children do it, and they can just retain that skill if we give them the chance to be calm and curious and be in the moment with that object, and not worry about the school run that's coming up at the end of the day, and not worry about a nap time that they've got to have. They're just thinking about this now, this tiny little thing in their hands, and how beautiful it is and how interesting it is. So being able to retain mindful skills, which are clearly naturally there, and hopefully that would limit the amount of adults as we're growing have to learn these skills. If we can just keep it from childhood, that would be great. Being able to wonder about the natural world might help children and adults to look after it. So if we get to be in the natural world and we're curious about it and we love it, and we notice when things aren't quite right, or we notice that there's not as many butterflies on the buddleias in my garden this year as there were last year. Why is that? And you could maybe think about how you could make your garden more butterfly friendly, or what the other issues might be around you. So being involved and learning to love the natural world could really actually help children and the adults around them be able to look after it. So the barriers that we might get, especially for us as adults, this is all great. And yes, we've talked about how easy it is. We don't have to buy lots of fancy resources. Great. Marvellous. But maybe you're still not quite sure. So I'm going to give you some barriers, and maybe that will help you think about ways that you could overcome it. So, seemingly endless why questions. Oh boy, we have all been there with a child or an adult who likes to ask why about everything. And for your information, that is me. I am that person who always asks why about things, and it drives people crazy. But it's fine. I've got a sense of wonder, so it's fine. So seemingly endless why questions can give us a real sense of frustration, because it just feels endless and it's every minute of every day. So sometimes it's okay to say, let's find out together. Let's go and do that and find out. But it can be a bit frustrating, but it's going to happen anyway, because we've already spoken about how a sense of wonder is part of human development. It's just a human nature. So even if you haven't got the most curious of settings and you're not actively trying to put in a sense of wonder, it's just going to happen anyway. So prepare yourself, deep breaths for those why questions. Some people might feel like they don't know how to answer questions from young children, and that's okay. Part of that is having the confidence to say, I don't know. You don't have to have the answer to everything. This is why libraries are here. This is why search engines are here. This is why all sorts of things. This is why everybody has teachers or people who are wiser than them. It's okay that you don't know everything. Even the biggest, most knowledgeable people in the world don't know everything. So it's okay you don't know everything. And if a child asks a question that you don't know, that's also fine. You can find out together. You can go to a library and ask a librarian together to help you find a book. It's okay. And it's also okay to just never have the answer to a question. Enjoy the process of trying to find out and getting distracted along the way, because, oh goodness, we're going to go off on tangents when we've got a sense of wonder. And it's almost like when you walk into a room and you don't know why you're there. You go, how did I get here? And when you're thinking about something that you really enjoy, it's just the process of it. It doesn't matter that you don't have the answer. The previous beliefs about how children learn could also be a barrier. So if you are someone who believes in more of a behaviourist approach, this is going to be a really stark contrast, because the behaviourist approach is very much more an approach that believes that children are kind of vessels to be filled by an adult's knowledge. So if you're someone that believes that more of this, it could be a little bit of a barrier to you instilling a sense of wonder into your curriculum. But it's up to you and on what your morals and how you approach your work to if this kind of approach is going to be right for you, and that's also fine. You might also have barriers with the children having a sense of wonder if their needs are not being met. So if a child does not have secure attachments, so you might have children with difficult backgrounds, or some SEND, special educational needs and disabilities, might create difficulties with attachments. If children's needs are not being met, then it's very difficult for them to have a sense of wonder, because to have a sense of wonder, you need to be able to not be in a flight or fright mode. And if you're constantly worried about running away or what the next problem will be, or trying to people please, this is also quite a big thing. If you're trying to please someone else, you're not going to want to explore your own sense of wonder. You're just going to be thinking about all of these things that are not met for you. So if you see a child that's really struggling with this kind of basic human nature of a sense of wonder, then it might be because somewhere some needs are not being met, and it's something to consider that could be a barrier for some children. Another thing that's very often hotly debated on social media is product over process. So if you are someone, or you know people who are very much wanting to create these beautiful pieces of artwork, and all the children have exactly the same, like a little factory line, say you're making polar bears. Well, A, you've already told the child we're making polar bears. B, you're going to make the polar bears in this way. So what they're learning from that, and I'm not against product art, by the way. I don't want any arguments over this. I feel like product art has its place because they're following instructions of how to make something. And for some children, they like to be able to make something that looks like a thing that they can name. That's fine. Some people are like this. There are adults like this that they want to follow a kit instead of just being absolutely free. If you might want to do paint by numbers canvas rather than just given a blank canvas, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But I feel like there should be opportunities to do both of them. And so if you only have a product-based approach, especially to creative, that you have an outcome and a set of instructions, and this is how we're going to make it, and the eyes go here and the nose goes here, then there's not really any space in that to be curious about the things that are going on. Whereas if you have a process approach and you just lay out all of the, or you just have available, you don't even have to lay them out, you just have available these different resources to stick and craft and to paint and to do everything with, then the child can explore those things and how they work, and they can do it in a way that pleases them and that engages their concentration. So you might have a child that wants to stick something on top of something, on top of something, on top of something, on top of something. And then when they've done that, they're going to peel off the something that's on top of something that's on top of something. And to us, we're just like, I really want you to be able to make a nice Christmas card for mummy and daddy. And you're just This is where product over process can be very bipolar in the debate circles over social media. So I always try to have a balance of both. That sometimes, yes, it is nice for families to have a thing that they get to take home at Christmas and that they put it in their memory box, and when their child is older they can look at it. But sometimes actually the most glorious pieces of artwork that come out are ones that are just complete mess, and they might not even be able to take it home because it's just wet and soggy and never going to dry in 1,000 gazillion years. So the barrier, if you are a product person over a process approach to a sense of wonder, it just means that their chance to be curious about the art materials is going to be limited. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, but when we think about all the benefits of a sense of wonder that we've already discussed, maybe you might be more inclined to just let them 1 or 2 times, see what happens if you go with a bit of process art instead. So, is there an advantage to being a childminder in order to deliver a sense of wonder approach in your setting? I think yes. I think childminders are greatly placed for this because we have a huge access into the real world in general. We don't have to make our house into a mini nursery if we don't want to. We have the real world. We go out, you might drive, you might cycle the children, you might walk with the children around, you might go on the bus. You get to go into real world, meet real people. You will have all sorts of different things to say to children or to spark when children watch them. And when you're in a different kind of setting, you have to book those visitors in, and it's much more limited because it's not going to be a chance meeting that this interesting thing is happening or this interesting person. You're just having to book someone to come in, like a dentist, to talk about teeth. You might not have the opportunity in a nursery, unless you're very lucky, to go out and watch people digging up the road, because that's what's happening today down the road. So being out and about in the local community gives us a sense of normal if we go out often. So when something new happens, like the road being dug up, the children notice it and then can be curious about it. We have to have a sense of what's normal to us in order to be very curious about something and to not just be overwhelmed all the time. Our homes are also a place of wonder. Our home is going to be very different, probably, to a child's own home. We also have a different environment to nurseries in that we quite often will have photos up on the wall of different people, of different places we've been, that we can actually talk about. We quite often will just walk past these photos every day. Just imagine, I don't know what your house is like, and you don't know what my house is like, but we're going to go on this imaginary walk around the house together. That a child has been upstairs for nap time, in a cot upstairs, and you're coming down the stairs with them, and on your wall down your stairs you've got pictures of people, family photos, your wedding photos, photos of a child's graduation, a picture of a place you've been on holiday, and probably every day you just walk past them and don't think any more about it. But why not tomorrow, when you walk down those stairs, talk about what happened in that picture? Just one of them. You could be like, oh, I remember that when I took that picture, that was when I went to the seaside with Bill and we built sandcastles, and my favourite bit of the day was when we had ice cream. And just talk about whatever that day happened there. And then maybe the next day, then consider or observe if the child points at that picture in particular, or if they ask to talk about a different picture. Because then you can see if they're curious about the stories that you've told. Your home can spark a sense of wonder just with what's in it. You might buy flowers or receive flowers from someone, and you can spend time looking at them, appreciating them in front of the children, even just you being curious about them. You don't have to tell them to be curious about it, just you do it. You get those flowers, you smell them, you look at the colour, you spend 5 or 10 minutes looking at them in front of the children. You don't have to tell them to come here and look at it, just be curious in front of them. And maybe that would show them that it's okay to be involved in something. Another bit of research for you. La Cura in 2014, in Bejenkness, I might be pronouncing these names all wrong, I apologise if this is your research, et al. In 2023, so not that long ago, describes how having a less busy and stressful environment that preserves children's quiet spaces can help children's sense of wonder, where not all things have to have a correct answer. So a childminding setting can be really good at this, because we have a homely based setting with smaller and less noisy ratios. We have those kind of snuggly moments sitting on the sofa. So these spaces, don't underestimate them. They're really important. Now, I can feel some people are panicking because they think they don't have a sense of wonder themselves. Oh, what can I do? How can I can hear what you're saying, Charlotte. I agree with you that this sense of wonder thing sounds great and it's beneficial to children, but I don't have it. And how am I supposed to help children have a sense of wonder if I feel like I don't have it? Wow. Don't worry, I got you covered. I did a little bit of thinking about this because I feel like people, when they grow up, don't play so much anymore, even in our profession, which is playing. So you can try some mindfulness, because we've already linked a sense of a sense of wonder to mindfulness. So whether you're on your own or with a family member, you can go for a walk and just notice things that spark interest around you. Watching a child play without interfering, unless you feel that safety leads you to. Be curious about what you think they're doing, how they're doing it. Be inquisitive about why they're doing it. Are they surprising you in what they're doing? Is something they're doing resulting in something you're not expecting? Lots of people say that watching a child play is something enjoyable, and you get to see their curiosity, and it's kind of a little bit contagious. So we have, as childminders, ample opportunity to do this, and hopefully that will help you feel a little bit curious and have a sense of wonder about just the children you're looking after. Talk to new people. I find this one really difficult. I don't know about you. I know lots of people who are great at going out and just talking to random people. I am not good at this. It's taken a lot of practice at being confident enough to talk to people when I'm out and about, and I still don't do it all the time. So it's something that I also need to practice, is to talk to new people when you're out and about. You can do some people watching very discreetly, don't make people feel uncomfortable, and you can chat with people very briefly. It doesn't have to be the most groundbreaking conversation ever. In fact, you actually might not really enjoy it very much at all, but the more you do it, the more likely you're going to have a conversation that intrigues you at some point. Or you can chat to that person for a little bit, just morning, how are you doing? Bye then. Chat about the weather. And then afterwards, you could be creative and make up a little story about where you think that person's going. Do you have to do it? That is a good question. No, you don't have to. There's no legal requirement. We've already explored the curriculums together, and it doesn't state that you have to instill a sense of wonder. However, we don't have to limit ourselves to the frameworks. We've already talked about how curriculum can be what you want to make it. So therefore, if you only want to provide what's in your statutory document from your local authority or government and a safe environment, then that's as far as you have to take your decision. You don't have to do more than that. I don't expect anyone to want to do the same as me. I don't expect anyone to want to do the same as the childminder down the road. You do you. That's a phrase we hear a lot these days. However, creating an environment that encourages a sense of wonder not only helps the children to develop and explore and be happier, but it also might help you to live a more fulfilling life too. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So I would really love it to hear some of your stories of a sense of wonder, whether it's something you've seen in the children in your setting, or it's something that you've decided to take from this because you feel empowered to have your own sense of wonder. And I will link all of these things for you. Sorry, I'm just waving my arm because I can see a cat. I will link all these things for you wherever you get this podcast. Please follow on social media on Mind That Childminder. You can find on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter/X. And I really would love to hear your stories about sense of wonder. And you can also recommend other topics that you want to chat with. So remember, you can create an environment that encourages a sense of wonder in children, but also creates a sense of wonder for yourself. And after all, it's a journey of life that we're all living. So you better go and enjoy it. Take care, and I'll speak to you again soon on Mind That Childminder. Bye. at Childminder. Find us on Facebook, X, and Instagram for more about upcoming episodes. All topics discussed are intended for entertainment and educational purposes. This podcast is not intended to give any legal advice and is purely an opinion and supportive piece.